talked about different broad types of accounting, such as cost accounting, managerial accounting, and financial accounting. So in this course we look at cost accounting only. And before understanding cost accounting, we have to understand different cost terminologies. Also, before understanding different cost terminologies, we have to understand what a cost by itself means. And it should not be ambiguous with expense and loss. What is cost, what is expense, and what is loss? Let me give you one simple example to understand this. We will talk about loss, but let me differentiate between cost and expense. Always, cost always brings an asset, and expense always brings a revenue. Let's look at, for example, you have bought $100 worth of mobile battery from Samsung company. From the start, when you buy this $100 worth battery, you have an asset. So the money you pay for to acquire this $100 battery is called cost, because always cost will always bring an asset. So here we have no revenue. We have, think of a benefit you get from this mobile battery as a revenue, any benefit. So when you buy, you haven't received any benefit from the mobile battery. However, when you use it for 1 year, you might get some amount of benefit because you have used this battery. Also, when you use for the second year, you have used 2 years, and you have got 2 years benefit from this battery, and until it completely depreciates and loses value. So think of this as when you buy the battery, think of this after using for 1 year, and think of this after completely using it, or after the second year. Let me assume this mobile battery has 2 years of useful life. So at year 1 there is no revenue, or there is no benefit you get from this battery, but you have bought it, and that's the cost you expense for it, you spend for this battery, is something that creates an asset, which is called a cost, not an expense. But always expenses will brought a revenue. So here you have used half of it. Think of the blue one as an expense and the red one as a cost. After completely using it, you will not have any value of that battery. You have used the full amount of, or the full capacity of that battery. This means you have used all of it, which means all of the costs or the assets is transferred to expense to generate this revenue. This time you don't have any asset, so you don't have any cost, because your cost is 0 and you don't have any asset. Probably you might have the battery might be present physically, but it do not have any capacity to give a future economic benefit. Always the definition of asset is something that the company owns, or the party owns, or that body owns, and that gives a future economic benefit. After completely using all of the capacity of this battery, you don't have any right to get a future economic benefit. This means you have completely used it, and you don't have an asset anymore. As long as you don't have any asset, you can't say there is a cost, because all of the cost has been transferred to an expense to generate a revenue. So always, if a revenue is generated, there should be an expense. Always, if there is an asset created, there should be a cost to acquire that asset. So to express it simply, this time we have $100 worth of cost. We have cost, and we have $15 worth of cost and $15 worth of expense after using it, half of it. And this time we don't have any cost, or we don't have any asset, but we have $100 worth of expense. So there is something called the matching concept. If you want to understand more about it, you might watch our financial accounting video or playlist. But the matching concept always says that expense should be recognized always when they generate revenue. this time it might not be expressed in a financial term, but revenue, what I mean to say revenue is a benefit that you get from this battery. When you buy it, you do not have any benefits that you have earned. However, in the second year, you have used 50% of 50 or half of it, and you have got half of the revenue that you can get from this battery. And this time you have got all of the benefits throughout the year that you can get from this battery. That's why here we don't have any asset, however we have a revenue generated. So as long as a revenue is generated, we have to recognize an expense. So expense is an expired portion of cost. How about loss? This time we cannot say that we have in revenue or an asset. Think of it, when you buy this battery and after using it for 1 year, let me say we have already benefited, or 50% of it or half of it is being used in the past year. However, there is $50 worth of cost or asset this time at that year. However, if this is completely, if the battery is completely destroyed due to some accident or say any other thing that might brought loss, at this time the asset is completely turned to zero. However, we cannot say we have an expense, because as long as it do not generate revenue or it do not generate a benefit, because on year 1, if this 50% of the asset is destroyed without being used for the second year, we cannot say that in the second year we can say that we do not have any assets, or we can set our cost to zero. However, we do not have any revenue that is generated from this asset, from usage of this asset. So as long as there is no revenue, we have no asset here, because the asset is destroyed due to the accident, and we have no revenue here also, because we haven't get any benefits from it. The asset is completely destroyed without being without giving the service, or for us without earning the benefit or the revenue. As long as there is no revenue, we do not have an expense, so we can say that a loss is happened. So to summarize all of the concepts, a cost is something that creates an asset. An expense is an expired portion of cost which generates a revenue, and a loss is something that do not generate an asset, or that do not generate any revenue. All three of them are the type of spending. However, if we spend a loss, we do not get, if a loss happened, we do not get any asset or any revenue. That's how a loss differs from these two above. Now let me start to learn about cost object, cost accumulation, cost assignment, different terms of costs. We have seen what a cost is, so we have to understand different cost related terminologies. So let me start with the cost object. Cost object is anything that a company wishes to measure its costs separately. For example, if the company wants to measure the cost of this chair, it is called cost object. This chair is a cost object in simple way. A cost accumulation is